Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Hope you had a good weekend, and it's questions and answer time. So go ahead, fire away, unmute yourself or type in, let her rip.
They got all their questions out apparently on Saturday. I mean Sunday. But if you guys want, if you have a question, type it in the chat if you want to keep it private, and then feel free to always raise your hand, unmute yourself if you have any questions. Other than that,
Okay,
maybe we'll
jump
start
into
with something and we'll just wait till the questions start coming in.
Give me a sec here.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hey Chris.
Thanks, Sam. Hey, Greg. Hey, trying to help out a coworker here. It seems like her accounts are just crazy. Like it's nonstop coming at her. Anything I can do to
Like give me a little bit more information then.
it's like, so we release a new product, right? And this particular client has been with us like over 30 years, and now they're just so unhappy, and she's constantly getting bombarded by complaints, and not only from the client but also their broker, and it seems to keep happening in particular to
You
her.
think it's her performance or like what seems to be going on?
I don't think so. It's just there's something that it seems like a pattern lately, this year especially for her.
But her performance isn't off or anything like that. It's just
No, no. Well, I don't think so. I'm sure it's affecting it somehow, because it's like,
yeah.
you take one step forward, 5 steps back.
So she's interacting with people and things aren't going well. Like when people interact with her, is she coming across like abrasive or scattered or like
No, no, it's the people are coming at her for, because basically she represents the company to these clients, right?
Mhm.
And people, the, the departments that support that client is not doing a good job, but she's the front person. She's getting the flack,
So
right?
it's the department that's not performing and they
Yeah,
get you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems to keep happening to her.
I mean, it sounds like the problem is the department.
Yes. And
Like so I would have her do the materialization breath, but as not so much with the clients, but with the department stepping up their game. Um,
okay.
uh,
It's almost like she's so stressed after work, and then she's afraid to log on in the morning for what's
mhm,
waiting for her,
mhm.
type of thing. And it's been that story this year. I mean, I've been in the same boat. I think you remember that difficult client I had that just was
So
constantly.
I would have her do the materialization breath, and I would have her do it with vetiver, and the idea being that if you think about like how we talk about with like the body or the emotions. Vetiver is grounding, but it's also a restorative. Like vetiver or valerian, spikenard would work too, but vetiver or valerian would be the two choices. And it's a restorative to like homeostasis, like when the body's been through flux or change or a shift or something difficult, the body can be a little bit scattered, like it's a little chaotic. And so the idea would be to use a restorative to restore balance and homeostasis for the body to, start performing better. And in the workplace, it's the same idea, but it's not just her, it's this balance of, departments and, marketing, and, like just like all the things like pulled together. And it sounds like the idea of the one department's not performing. And so, no matter how nice she is or how good she is at her job, if she's representing a department who's not performing well, something about that department is chaotic. That's the thing that needs to be addressed. Like her doing things for herself really aren't the issue. It's the department. And so you're directing that energy associated with like the restorative or restoring balance, but at the department. Like if that makes sense.
So while she's doing the materialization breath,
Do the materialization breath,
it,
have her visualize her department, like different people in the department, and then do the materialization breath. And then sit and just observe, like everything is focused on the department.
mhm,
And then I do that daily until the situation stabilizes.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so
It's
much. Would me blessing under her feet or do something? I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that there's like shifts and changes, like to be polite, there's either the whole department or a couple key pieces of the department has their head up their butt a little bit.
Yeah,
Um uh you have a Dorje?
I do.
Bless the that org, address that team or that organ, that group. I don't know what you guys call it in your company, but group, org, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And
Group.
just hit it with the door J quite a bit.
Okay.
Because the door J is gonna bring light to it and it's gonna have movement. And like when I say like there's a little bit of head up the butt, it's like
Uh-huh.
there's no movement. There's just like a repetitive thing that's not very healthy, that is just being engaged and they're not breaking out of it. So something needs to push it out of that. There needs to be movement. And so the use of the dorje in that particular situation, it's anchoring light in that situation. And so it's the light is the thing that makes things like move. And so
Okay.
that's what needs to happen in that little grouping.
Thank you so
It,
much.
as much as she tries to do things for herself, it's not going to really change
I know, the poor
it.
thing. I can just, I mean, I've been in that boat.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's like,
it's
wow.
a team thing and effort, and if sections aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, or if somebody hits a glitch or hits a screw up or something, you know, everybody downstream pays the price, and so
Right.
yeah.
Hey, Greg, can you
Mhm.
The purba.
Hmm?
Can you remind me again how to use it? I can point it to the chakra, right?
Yeah, yeah, you take it like say this is a purva, like you could direct it like this, and then but there's different practices as you do stuff with the purva, but at first just like break things up in chakras or areas in the body,
Uh-huh.
and then just disintegrate down, down and sideways.
Okay.
Yeah, like I like to use it to really poke on the
Can you
ajna
dig with it?
in the basic, like really poke on the ajna basic.
Ajna.
Yeah,
And it's okay to dig with it, right? Kind
yeah,
of like,
yeah, yeah,
okay, cool.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Thank you so much.
You're so
Appreciate it.
welcome. If you're going to do that, you could also use aloes. Use
Aloes.
aloes.
Okay.
Yeah, inhale in your, poke for a little while, and then aloes, and then poke for a little while, and then aloes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then let me know, like even after the things get resolved for her in the workplace,
Uh-huh.
that thing with the valerian and the vetiver, I would have her still do that for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's I don't know. Different teams or different groups in a business can have different issues, and sometimes they work well with others and sometimes they don't. Um,
Mm,
I don't think this little group has like horrible um habits, but they don't have
mm-hmm,
good habits. You
mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like they're not malicious, they're sloppy. They're just
Very.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're really, really sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to the point where they're kind of borderline careless,
Yes, I agree.
but they don't think they're being careless or sloppy. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yep.
That's a
Yeah.
tough one. The vetiver is grounding. The vetiver and the valerian helps relax things. Like I said, it acts as a restorative, and if it was a person, I would say this person checks out a little bit. Like they're not really present with what's being presented to them in everyday life. And here
Mm-hmm.
the group checks out, like the dynamics of the group. They don't, um, they're not always assessing what they need to do or strategies or next steps or just their time frame of getting stuff done. So
Yep.
they're a little checked out. They're a little reactive and checked out. And the
I'm
vetiver,
wondering if because they're overwhelmed, or maybe that's part of it.
cool. I mean, anytime we're talking about this is overwhelmed, but
Say that again, Greg.
I'd say sometimes it can be overwhelmed, but there's a couple people on that team that are opinionated and aren't that bright.
Ah,
It's like one thing to be opinionated and be smart, and then there's another thing about being opinionated and not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Like
got it.
they're opinionated, but they kind of don't know what they're doing.
Got it.
It's
I
like
do.
they
Yeah.
know what they're doing, but they're not good at what they do.
Yeah. And is it the leader or his
Might,
people?
might be. There's a few of them, but not just one person.
Yeah. All right. Eesh.
I mean, I don't want to point fingers, but
Yeah. No, I've experienced it.
yeah,
I had that team work for one of my groups before and my clients, and oh
yeah.
boy, yeah. I
Uh,
thought they resolved things, but no.
could Chris do the materialization breath with that vetiver Valerian
Yeah,
on the
sure.
group?
Chris could do it as well. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
For
like,
her.
yeah, you could do it. You could have her do it. Um, I mean, that's the thing. Like some of the stuff that I used to do when I was in the corporate setting is, I didn't have like the people doing the practices. I mean, every once in a while, I have them do a little bit, but I was the one doing
Mhm.
most of it. And so
Mm,
you could totally do it, but you know, not to pick on anybody, but um it's like what I've said before, mediocre behaves in a mediocre way. You know what I mean? Like when you're trying to get somebody to really step up their game,
mhm,
um, there are some people who stepping up the game is not an option. They're getting people to do their job for them, or they're covering their tracks, or there's a whole wide range of things that people could be doing. And sometimes that's about all you're going to get out. So
mhm.
you do the best you can in the situation and then try not to work with them again.
Yeah,
It just is what it is.
yeah.
Every company has a whole bunch of
You're right.
it. Every company.
Yeah.
Like rarely is there a company that, doesn't have that. And if they do like manage to avoid that, it's because they're small and they're tight and they, everybody knows everybody and knows what's going on. But even then, there's always hiccups.
Mhm.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Not a horrible thing. It's just an uncomfortable, unpleasant thing.
Yeah.
At least they're not being malicious.
Yes. Tough one.
Yeah,
Tough to watch.
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Thank you so
You're
much.
so welcome. Like, and if that should work, and if for some reason that doesn't work, then we might have to do a different strategy. But that would be my first round of what I would do would be I'd work that really intensely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Greg and
you're so.
Sam. Mm.
And then go ahead, Dorothy, then Denise.
Hey, Miss Dorothy.
Let's get you unmuted.
Hi, I'm sorry I didn't unmute, but this is my daughter Sherry. Hello. And I asked you a question about her headaches and about oils or what you thought. And you asked me, well, where does this pain
Oh
come?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
So where are the headaches? Like what part of the head?
they're right up here, right between the eyes, but up in the head right here. And sometimes it goes all the way, shoots down to the back of the neck, right here.
Okay, and it goes over the top or across the side, or you just feel it at the back and then at the front?
Back in the front, just shoots right through.
And are you having any sinus issues or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
sleep apnea. I don't
Oh,
know.
I just was diagnosed with sleep apnea.
Okay. So right at the where the nose kind of meets the.
Well, it's more on it's sometimes it's on this side and then it goes to this side. Can you see like right here to here? And when I always do this to press to make sure to get the pressure off of it.
Okay.
Like up in the eyeballs. Not
Okay.
in the eyeballs, but up.
Okay. And are you having sinus issues at all?
No, I don't usually.
Okay. So what I would probably do would be I would use there's this oil called vetiver, and I would use it and rub it at the base of the skull, all along the base of the skull from side to side, like We can put it in a roller ball. It's a little bit of a like a heavy, thick, sticky oil. And so, I mean, it's not completely, but like, it's thick. And so I'd rub it all along the base of the skull and then a little bit in the temples and a little bit just like across, like up in here, like where the hairline is, just, like maybe at night before you go to bed. And it does several things. One is it's a muscle relaxer. It increases circulation, but in a way that's very calming, very soothing. It's very like kind of grounding and very soothing. Um, but it sounds like you have a little bit of what we would call neuralgia. And neuralgia is an inflamed nerve. And it sounds like you have a little bit of occipital neuralgia at the base of the skull. And there's a little foramen up here on each side that the nerve gets a little bit inflamed there. And the vetiver is not so much an anti-inflammatory. It does have some anti-inflammatory properties to it, but it relaxes things enough to where it would take some of the pressure off the nerves and be very soothing to the head and relaxing to the body and help you get a good night's sleep and everything like that. That's where I would actually start with that. So whatever at the base of the skull, a little bit in the temple, and then a little bit across like the top.
Okay.
You can inhale it a whole bunch if you wanted to, but you're basically wanting to take compression or pressure off of the nerves. And so hitting those spots will take some tension out of the head. And then even inhaling a little bit will help with deepening that release of tension from your head. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Should she do that at night when she goes to
Yeah, I
bed?
would do it at night. Like, I mean, you can always do it for damage control if you're having a headache, but at night would probably be your best bet. It would help you sleep and, you're putting some stuff on your head. And like, if you're at work and stuff, it might not always be the best thing to do. So, I mean, you can do it during the day, but like do it at night, like as you're laying down so that, you get maximum benefit from sleep time and is there a time of day where the headache is the worst?
Well, I wake up a lot at 4 a.m. with a headache.
Okay, so
Um,
yeah, do it at night right before you go to bed. Like that should try to help that. And so, you can get it in a 5 ml bottle, which is just like, a little bottle like this. But I
Mhm.
would actually get it in a roller ball. And
Okay.
so that way it's kind of good to go and you can just rub it where it needs to be and you don't really have to deal with the sticky and rubbing in. You just kind of rub it and you're good to go.
Okay.
So, and the roller ball's a little bit less expensive.
Could you, would you take,
It's not an expensive oil, but
would you take another question from us?
of course.
I've been struggling with memory issues
Okay.
and, they may think it's from my sleep apnea problem.
Very well could be from the sleep apnea. What's stress levels like in your work or
Um,
your day or whatever you're doing?
um, I'm, I'm stressed medium. I mean, I'm not overly stressed. No.
Okay.
I'm not relaxed either, though.
Um, Well, there's two things that you could do here. Let's like talk it out. And so one way to improve memory, like part of the thing with memory is like, especially if you're stressed or distracted or a little fatigued, is sometimes we don't have enough circulation get into the brain for the mechanisms to work. Sometimes there's brain fatigue. And then there is like we're not always observing what's happening to take the information in to even form the memory. And so that's usually a byproduct of the first two. But especially with brain fatigue, it becomes harder and harder to focus on things and take information in to even form the memory. So then when you try to go back and recall the memory, it's not that you don't have good memory, it's like it just never formed. Like you're trying to recall something that's not there. And so if you use something like rosemary, rosemary increases circulation to the brain. It diminishes some stress, but it improves circulation, which will improve like some brain function because it's improving oxygen. You are, if you're having sleep apnea, you are having a little bit of hypoxia where you have a reduction in oxygen and blood getting to the brain. So that could be what's causing it. Like that's why like them thinking that apnea could be causing it, that could be it. On a deeper level, if that's going on for a while, or if there's a lot of inflammation or other issues going on in the body, like pain or sensitivity in the body, um, what can happen is you'll develop what you would just call like brain fatigue. And so there you want to fortify the brain somewhat so that it has the ability to process cognitively like more information, more sensory input coming from, the five senses. And so for circulation, rosemary works really well, but for the brain fatigue, the best choice is sage, some form of sage, and you would inhale it quite often and put it on your wrist, and even put several drops, like maybe on your chest or your abdomen at night before you go to bed. And over a period of time, sage is neuroprotective, and it's one of the best things for brain fatigue. And so over a period of time, you can unwind the brain fatigue. It's just like if anything gets tired, your muscles get tired, your back gets tired, all of a sudden it becomes easier and easier for your back to go out. The same thing can happen with the brain. And so to augment that, the use of basil, which is a mental and cognitive like stimulant, and stimulant here is not like a stimulant like coffee. Stimulant here is it's making processes in the body work better. And so here it would be that it's making the brain and your cognitive functions like function better. So basil could be used as well, but like I hate throwing a bunch of things at you at once. So I'd say right off the bat, I'd probably start with rosemary and then graduate to sage. And then after you've done that for a while, you could still augment with a bit of basil. If you want to go for it all at once, you totally could. But if you want to do it in steps, that's how I do it. I'd go rosemary, then, after maybe 3-4 weeks, then do sage, and you can see how the rosemary's treating you. But they've done studies where even just long, slow, deep breaths every morning with the rosemary, 15 to 20 inhalations has improved cognitive function and memory recall. But it takes at least 30 days of doing it. Like you're not going to get it like, after the first day or two of inhaling it, you're not going to get like, oh, my memory's back. It's going to be a while of reestablishing like, proper circulation and things to the brain for it to be something that's making a shift. So I would say at least 30 days, but you're probably looking at a good 90 to 120 days of just every day, get up, have your coffee, and inhale it and let it do what it's going to do. You'll start to notice a difference, but even if there's improvement, I would say keep treating because the improvement can still increase over a period of time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're still welcome.
And I just want to let you guys know, if you're able to access the Zoom chat box and chat area, we put in the different information for you guys and it's there. And a lot of people copy and paste it for themselves. Some people save it. You can always email us for this information as well, but it's right there in the chat. It kind of went through the different oils and application for you guys.
The rosemary and the sage will probably help with the headache as well. You know, it's there are potentials for treating certain kinds of headaches. Given the kind of headache that you have, it might take the edge off a little bit, but the headache sounds a little bit more like neuralgia. And it's just a little bit of inflamed nerves, and that can happen for whatever reasons. If you don't have sinus issues, sometimes the ones in the face are because of sinuses, but usually at the base of the skull, it's usually a little bit more stress oriented or a misalignment in the back. Um, bad back, bad neck, something like that nature. Or it could also be the way you're sleeping. If you're sleeping with your head twisted really severely at night, or, if you're sleeping on your side and the head's way down or way up, where it's putting a big curve from the side and the neck, that could also be a contributing factor. And so, yeah. Start
Um,
exploring those things and see how that treats you.
you were mentioning about sleeping on the side or whatever.
Mhm.
I keep saying to my husband, I think when I sleep on my left side, it causes me to have the headache.
Yeah,
Um,
I kind of suspected that. Like because you don't seem to be super stressed out. You don't seem to be like, there's like certain markers that you would kind of look at. And granted, we're just interacting for a minute or two, but if there's a little bit of a neck issue, like especially on one side, it is probably could be compensated for by just really making sure that when you're laying on that side that your neck is able to completely relax. Like sometimes we kind of are tensing up our neck to kind of like hold it in place, or like the neck is too far down, or it's too like, I'm laying on this side but my head's too much like this. It can cause a lot of that base of the skull kind of thing, and then it will come into the area up front. And so I'd say, you don't have to like keep from sleeping on that side, but I'd spend a little extra time like figuring out like where your neck's at while you're laying there, so that when you're asleep that it's in a good like aligned position. um so when you're laying on that side, the other thing that I would say, one of the indicators that I'd also look for is um sometimes it might not even be in the neck, it could be actually be in the hip. And so you're on your left side, right? Like whatever side that we're talking about. So the side that's up, one of the things that you would look for is in and around the socket of your hip. Like sometimes when you're laying on that side, you don't have any pressure on it because it's up in the air, right? But it will start to get a little achy, like in and around the hip socket. And it just means that you're like stretching out the ligament in that spot, and that like the leg is moving farther than it should. And so it actually will travel up the back and then hit you still in the back of the neck. And so I would pay attention to the hip socket, and that could be treated just by, like, say, putting a pillow in between your knees, or not letting the leg or the knee go so close to the bed, like, keeping it up in a more, um, like your knees not crossing your midline, if that makes sense.
mhm,
Yeah.
I got
So
you.
like pay attention to that hip socket. Like if that hip is achy while you're laying like that, or if you wake up and it's like it's not like necessarily hurting, it's just got this like low grade like ugh, you know,
Mhm.
it's probably more of a hip issue than a neck issue.
That's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
You're so welcome. And then let us know, like in a couple weeks, if we need to touch that up or try something different. But those are great places to start.
Okay, thank you very
You're
much.
so welcome.
And then go ahead, Denise, and then we have some questions in chat as well.
Mhm. Hey, Denise.
Hi, um, thank you for taking my call. I
Hey,
wanted to
how are you?
ask, oh, you know what? I really do like that myrrh. I only have a little roller bar ball, but I ordered it, so it's coming.
Mhm.
And vetiver is coming
Yeah, it
too.
is helping
They're
you.
all
Like,
coming. Okay.
yeah, but the myrrh is helping you.
Oh my gosh, I think, it really, even the little roller ball, I had to roll it
Yeah.
on my hand and then kind of lick it off because I
Right,
didn't
right,
have
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but are you kidding? Yeah, it
Yeah.
really did. Now I had to do it repeatedly, but the next day it was totally gone.
Yeah.
So,
I think like if you can do bigger dosages for a little bit, like that's the thing that's really amazing, like with myrrh. Like when we talk about like doing things for pain and those kinds of irritations in the body, galbanum works really well, but like you got to do it daily. But myrrh, like you can do some dosages for a little bit, and then I'll notice like say I treat it for a week or two or something, like every day, and then I'll go, it's been like a month since I've treated it again. Like, it kind of shifts how the body processes some of that. And yeah.
and the next day, Greg, I could tell that it definitely detoxes the kidneys. I
Yes.
mean, it
Yeah.
really, the next day was just, it just felt like it just opened some things up. So I'm really sold on the myrrh. But what I
Yeah.
really had wanted to ask you about was my ex-husband, all right,
Sure.
Jared's father. He's the one that had about this time last year, November, December, he had 28 days of radiation for prostate cancer.
Okay.
And then I think at some point during the year, they were like riding like down in Mexico, like four-wheelers, and he cut his leg. And more recently, he just had a car accident this weekend. And I think his doctor said the prostate, I think some of that all looks good, but right now they think he's clinically depressed and want him to start like medication and therapy. Now I know when I was married to him, he says, I'm from that generation that never trusts anybody over 30. You know what I mean? And yeah, you know what I mean? I think in a way, and he would say periodically, I don't want to get old. I don't, he was not looking forward to getting older. So he's about 5 years older than I am. So, is there anything, because he's so, I mean, I have a son that's resistant, but honestly, in some ways, he's just as resistant, and I can't really connect with him either. So we're in the process of moving that guardianship to me, and it'll probably
Okay.
be best because I've tried to connect and work with them, and it's not working out. So do you have can you pick up anything that I can do? Because I think
Yeah.
probably
so he had 28 days of radiation.
yes, he did. And I forgot to tell you, they did find out this summer he's starting to show early signs of dementia as well. So it's
Okay.
just, yeah,
That's
and this
why.
is all
Okay.
in a year.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I would go really hard with sage. Like do like a sage body tonic if you do that, or a lot of inhalation or several drops on the wrist. But I would say if he would do a sage body tonic every day, would he participate, or is this something where we're kind of doing on the sly a little bit?
Well, I can ask him, but my guess is it's going to have to be more on the side. It's going to be more like just whatever
Tell him
energetic.
I'm 25, and because he doesn't trust people over 30. So yeah.
But could it be the materialization breath and doing the same for him?
It
Or
could, but he's got a lot of physical stuff that needs to.
well, I'll ask him. You never know. I can
Okay,
try.
a body tonic would be perfect. It would make his body feel better. It would, the sage being a neuroprotective would help to slow down the potential onset of dementia. You know, the thing with dementia, a lot of times, if you can cut down inflammation in the body, you can slow it down and even reverse it somewhat. And so, you know, not every time, but there's been many times where I have done that. And sage is good just because, like, when the inflammation is there, the sensory nerves get overwhelmed. It's very fortifying. It treats depression. It strengthens and fortifies the body. You know, it protects the nerves. It does have anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic properties to it. I mean, we could get a lot done with just using that one oil with him. And
Okay.
I think it would improve like, it wouldn't just be like, oh, we're treating all these things. It would literally improve his quality of life. Like, he would feel better, his mind would work a little bit better, and you know, it would work on a lot of levels for him. And
Sure,
you
I'll
know, you just like slap it on at night as he goes to bed. Like, it doesn't have to be some big hardcore routine or something like that.
he does have asthma and has for a very long time. So like on his chest or just stomach or arms and
I would cover as much of the body as he would be into, like, so chest, abdomen, arms, legs,
Right.
you know, like, just kind of do it as you go to bed. And you know, he's not going to be able to reach all of his back, but you know, whatever areas he could hit.
Sure, if you're surprised that you can hit it.
Yeah.
that sounds great,
Yeah.
Greg. Thank you so much. I'll get that ordered for him, and between this and this weekend, when we go into this weekend, I'll get it ordered
Okay.
because something might be
Do
come out of this weekend.
do Spanish sage.
Oh, Spanish sage.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, do Spanish sage. It's a little bit better. I mean, they're all a good neuroprotective, but the Spanish sage is a little bit better than the other ones.
And do you want? I think I don't know if I have that one myself, but you're going to make it up into a body tonic, right?
Right.
And then how large of a container should I pour it?
I mean, I would do an 8-ounce bottle and let him fire through that 8-ounce bottle and see how he does with it.
That sounds great. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Lucinda.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, how are you? Can I ask you a question about the manifestation with the 4 bloods?
Sure.
Okay, because I've been doing that regularly for probably I don't know, since you put the video out. And the first question is about the karma aspect of it.
Yeah.
Is there I mean, it feels like there's a limit to that. Unless I'm building up good karma every single day to apply it. And then the other another question about it was, is there a good timing? Like, is it every day? I'm probably doing it like 4 days a week.
Yeah, consistently is best. Like, it kind of
Mhm.
depends on you. I tend to do it at night, but
Yeah.
if you're doing it in the morning, I'd probably say I do it at the extreme of either early in the morning or later at night, and not really maybe during the day, just because you're going to be a little too distracted maybe during the day. And even if you sit down and do it, you're still not like in that place. But like, right when you wake up, you know, that first hour or so, you know, you're kind of in a little bit better place to sit down and like really do it deep. And then at the end of the day, when you're done and you kind of have let go of the day, same thing. You can really go a little bit deeper. And so I would do it either at the begin or the end of the day, you know, whichever one you choose. But yeah.
I do them both times.
Oh,
And
tremendous.
sometimes I just
Even
listen to
better.
it in the
Yeah.
car. But since I didn't, I don't know why I wasn't part of that class or don't remember it. I just didn't.
I don't think it
really-
was actually a class. I think it was
Okay.
just something that we did. Wasn't it something we just did on like a study group or something? Like, was it part of a class? I don't think it was in a class.
What is it?
It's where we did blood oils, but the
Oh,
basic,
that was a study group.
that was yeah, so it
And
was
it was
a,
a special study group just for people who had those.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I can't remember
Right.
who was in a class from a class, but it, you know, in
Yeah.
whatever, but
it was,
You-
it was
You had sent
something
it out in a
where,
special email
yeah, like it was
for those of us who
not
had
part of the
it.
class, but since you were in the class, we did like a little extra thing. You know, it was one of the,
Right.
yeah.
And so I felt like I was sort of shooting in the dark with no really understanding it.
Yeah, I don't even know that I gave a lot of explanation.
You didn't.
But uh you know, working those four parts, you're unwinding. There's four there, I mean, there's actually five, but it's really important to focus on four for a little while. But mm, the best way to say it is like you're unwinding like this uh kind of this base matter that uh is very chaotic and undifferentiated, and the key being undifferentiated. Like there's you could say it's like it's hard to realize something when there's not differentiation in the kinds of matter or the kinds of energy. And as you go through and you unwind and start treating each thing separately, it becomes easier and easier to perceive different areas or aspects of your consciousness. And so it becomes easier then to go through and do meditation and mantra and direct energy to these different areas. But at first, it's just this like blob. And so you could say it's the elements, you could say that, you know, it's these building blocks. Um, but there's these aspects that contribute to lack of order, you know, like violence, like interactions, aggressive interactions, things that generate fear, and things that generate indulgence. And by going through and working the four aspects of the blood, you're literally like breaking those down and beginning to transmute them so that they're not necessarily spiritualized at that point, but they got the invitation to the party, if you know what I mean. And without that invitation, you can't get in the party. And when done over a period of time, it is the reason why it generates good karma is on one level you could say you're offering up like your primal or animalistic nature up to, you know, God, the higher soul, whatever you want to call it. There's that component, but the quality of those four aspects are based on energies that we've accumulated that are down below our feet. And you could say all our screw ups, we're standing on them. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're below our feet. And in a
I mean
way,
that mountain, huh?
what's that?
That mountain below my feet.
Yeah, yeah. And so by working the four aspects of the blood, you literally start breaking down that stuff below your feet. That's what we're doing kind of with that. And
Okay.
so there's whole practices that are based on that. They're usually not taught publicly, but that's what you're doing with that. That's why it diminishes karma. It's not that the oils are magic, it's just where you're directing them. It's breaking down the energies that contribute to our like our karmic struggles, and by addressing them, it makes it easier for us to learn our lessons and not engage in the negative karmic patterns that we might have come in with. And it makes it easier for us to learn our lessons so that we break out of those patterns in a way that's gentle and not like a a bonk on the head.
Well, it's interesting because I've certainly had uh, more opportunities to test it than since I started it, and
Mhm.
it's not only easier to navigate, but I'm ended up taking more of a controlling aspect instead of just the recipient of
Yeah.
what's what's happening. So
So
it's interesting.
we're doing 2 free classes this weekend, and one is the esoteric meeting of red and green for the
In green,
holidays,
yeah.
Christmas, and it's addressing like a different piece of what we're talking about.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I've already
So
signed
I
up
would
for it.
say that one's on Sunday. Definitely do
Mhm.
Sunday's class.
Yeah. Well, I've already signed up for the weekend. I'm
Yeah.
booked
I,
through
I I
January.
mean, it's in a way, it's not like a ton of new things, but it's just more direct and to the point. And um, I'm going to talk about the mechanics a little bit more, so with some visuals of with some of the alchemical symbolism and things, so that that's the thing with alchemy. It's not always like do this, do this, do this, do this. It's like you kind of get some ideas, and then you kind of don't really get it until you start doing it. And so the 4 oils are in the vein of this, and then this thing that we're going to be talking about on Sunday is like another piece of it that really can get the ball rolling. And you know how over last weekend, I think it was Laura was asking about like a daily practice, is I want to kind of lay out like some alchemical processes, because like here we're talking about it like from the point of view of alchemy, but it's like basically the basis or foundation for Christian tradition, Jewish tradition, Buddhist tradition. They use different terms like in alchemy, what they would call like the like that base primal material, that's like the first material. Like it's very unorganized, it's very chaotic, it's very primal. um they would refer to it as lead, but like in the Buddhist tradition, it would be, the lotus rising up out of the mud. The mud is the that base matter. Like, they all refer to this base matter in different ways, but we're all talking about the same thing. Like it's just different words for different things. And there's this one really kind of nice uh alchemical picture, and it's a person who's standing up, and one of the arms is red and one of the arms is white, and they're rising up out of the mud, and they got mud all over their body, and their head is just actually a red ball. And they're standing before this, looks like a queen or something. And you look at it and you go, little bit of a weird picture, but when you start putting together like the idea of mud and this base matter, and then that red ball symbolizes the heart seed. It's the seed of destiny, or the physical permanent seed. And like if you think about like you've seen pictures of Christ where there's like a red like kind of thing coming out from one side and a white stream of something coming out on the other side. You know, when you start to look at it from a different point of view, you can see several different traditions in this just one little picture. And you know, it's what a lot of spiritual practices are based on. But you know, we are just thinking, no, we activate the heart and then we get the heart to the crown and then we have this. But really what you're doing is you're doing this like very deep alchemical practice. And so the more that we kind of know about the alchemical practice, it makes it like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this to hit a certain marker, and then I move to the next thing. Like, you know, you're trying to hit these like markers. And so you know, we've been doing a lot of this stuff for a while, but we're just going to be a lot more specific and verbal about like what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's helpful.
So keep doing what you're doing. Like you're getting results, but things will be added on and augmenting what you're doing.
Okay, because you know, like I kind of want to move on to the next thing that I want to shoot for the moon for, but I think this has to play out first. So
Yeah,
I will
like
keep doing it. Yeah.
the big thing, like after you kind of do that, the big thing is really not just activating the heart, activating the back heart. The back heart is like key. As soon as the back heart really starts to get activated, you start flushing all kinds of stuff out of the arms and legs. And that can be a game changer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll do that little protocol.
Yeah, and
where
we're
you
going to
flush
talk
things
about
out
that
of your
on
arms,
Monday.
like too.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
And then go ahead, Dorothy.
Hey, Dorothy.
Yes, I have were you speaking about a specific oil right then when you were talking to her?
It's actually a group of oils, blood 1 through 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's a kit right here.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yes.
Okay.
And Robert can post it again in the chat if it's easier for you to see. But
No,
yeah.
I see it right now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Sherry had a question.
Oh yeah. So I have a diffuser, and I was wondering what you thought about diffusers, and could I use any of this that you said to me earlier?
Yeah, you could use a diffuser for probably the rosemary would be a good one to do, like the rosemary and or the sage. The sage you'd probably want to get on your body or hold it closer to the nose, but still you could diffuse it throughout the day. Rosemary, I would still inhale it at the beginning of the day, but then you could still put a diffuser and have it up and going throughout the day to keep the rosemary going, to keep blood moving to the head and all of that. Yeah.
What about vetiver? Is that
You need to do that more directly to the body, and vetiver is very thick. It doesn't really diffuse very well.
okay?
Yeah. It tends to gunk up the diffusers.
Can you do too much with a diffuser, like all night long or something?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to like
Overdo it.
overdo it.
Yeah.
So, my husband has had 2 back surgeries, and he's doing pain management now, where he gets shots in his back and every 3 months.
So you
And
get it into the tissue, or are they doing
like an epidural type thing.
epidural? Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. And do you have any advice for that?
So the thing that I would do with that is I would do two things. Like I would there's this blend called Nerve Help that I would get in an ointment and I'd put on his back daily, it would help with the pain, but it also kind of helps to regenerate the nerves. And when I say regenerate for nerves, like you're breaking a pattern that they've adjusted and adapted to the like the dysfunction in the back. And so regeneration is basically for nerves is re-education. Like you're trying to get them to act more appropriately, like you're getting them to break out of a pain pattern. So it would have pain relieving properties to it. It would be an anti-inflammatory, but it would also help regenerate the nerves so that they're not continually just doing that same pain pattern over and over again.
Okay.
I would do that. And then the reason that they're having to do an epidural is that the connective tissue around the spinal cord is so tense that it can put pressure on the spinal nerves. And so like a rule of thumb is anytime that the diaphragm is tight, the diaphragm will increase tension in the spinal muscles, right? So if you want to relax the little muscles that run up and down the spine, you relax the diaphragm. And so basically you want to deepen the breath. And like one of the easiest ways to do it is to start using hyssop. And hyssop would have to be inhaled quite a bit in the nose, but like at night, like maybe 15-20 long slow deep breaths, like as he's going to bed, it would help to start take tension out of the diaphragm, but then that would also take pressure out of or tension out of the spinal muscles. And so it would help to open up the spine and the spinal cord. And it's not necessarily going to be a trade for the epidural, but he probably will get more relief with the epidural. He might be able to go longer periods of time without the epidural. And there has been several times where we've gotten people to the point where they don't need the epidural anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
So that would be a good place to start.
Yes,
Like,
so-
like with so the nerve help on the back and then inhaling the hyssop. I mean, there's more things that can be done, but I also don't want to overwhelm him with a bunch of things. Like let him have a little success and a little like relief, and then when he wants to add a little more, we can do a little more.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
In that vein, someone's asking, can you tell us
and it's
what,
just-
hang on, what would be the best oil for low back pain that has numbness? Would it be something like nerve help or pain relief neuropathic?
I would actually do both. Like I would do nerve help right off the bat and either rotate with pain relief neuropathic or do nerve help for like a few weeks and then switch over to the pain relief neuropathic. And the idea is kind of very similar to what we're talking about right now. Like you want to kind of re-educate the nerve and then eventually, block some of the pain, but open up the spine somewhat. And so any time that you're having pressure on the back or there's numbness on the back, it could be because of a herniation, could be because of bone on bone or muscle tension in and around the area. um, Applying the pain relief neuropathic directly to the spine will be helpful. But I would also like deepen the breath because anytime that there's been sharp pain for a period of time, part of what happens is your bronchioles, like up here in your chest, they go into a spasm. And so you're not just treating the diaphragm, you're also treating the bronchioles. And the more that you can unwind the diaphragm and the bronchioles, the pain can go from being a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10 down to like a 4 or a 5 kind of quickly if you just even open up the breath without even treating the other things. And so by treating the breath and then treating the low back area and applying it to the spine and treating the muscles in and around that spine in the lower area over a period of time, even a few days or a week or two, you can actually bring substantial relief to that area and make it even so that even if you haven't put something on it, it's still feeling good. And so, again, nerve help, and if it's real severe, you can put the pain relief neuropathic directly on the spine itself, and then the hyssop to unwind the diaphragm and the bronchioles.
Thanks. Yesterday, a family friend turned 103.
Wow.
There was a small celebration for her at lunch. She was totally alert, appropriate, and socially engaged. Today, she was confused and super agitated. Is that just her being overtired or overstimulated, or is it something else going on?
It's probably fatigue and a little overstimulated. Yeah. Boy, I keep talking about sage. I would do a little more sage for something like that. Yeah.
Application?
Yeah, just inhalation would be good. If you could maybe rub a little on her feet or have somebody rub it on her feet, but the sage should be helpful.
And then there's an upcoming class. Sorry, I have to find the question here. Give me a second. Multitasking. The Sphinx one, but let me see what the question was really quick. The Healing Mysteries of the Sphinx class sounds very interesting. What is it going to be about?
So, we've been working for a little while with the three brains, which is, going back to what we were talking about, even with Cindy, part of what you're trying to do in what we call healing is you're trying to establish movement, right? You're trying to break out of a repetitive pattern that's in the body, that's in the form. It's just a fancy way of saying healing, or healing's a fancy way of saying movement, however you want to say it. And so it's what heals the body physically, it's what heals the body psychologically, and it's what helps us to spiritually grow and evolve. And so when we work the aspects of the three brains are intuition, they're movement, they're motion. Our logical mind, our everyday mind is about that repetition. It's about maintaining, it's establishing a sense of balance and then maintaining that balance. But intuition is the thing that helps us to adjust, helps us to adapt, helps us to grow, helps us to evolve. That's what helps us to heal. And so, we work the three brains for a while, and, it's a way to heal, it's a way to innovate, it's a way to break out of patterns. But at some point, we kind of hit like a glass ceiling of sorts. And that glass ceiling is the different aspects of the will. And the four aspects of the Sphinx are addressing four aspects of the will. And so we are refining, like basically refining the sense of movement by unwinding the effects of trauma and conditioning and past experiences and pain, all on the aspects of the will, so that you're able to engage and take more action and do more movement and heal the body to a higher degree, to heal the psyche and psychologically to a much higher degree, and then also spiritually grow and evolve to a much higher degree. Because really physical healing, psychological healing, spiritual healing are really just different parts of the spectrum of the same movement or motion. We just have defined it in each of these different ways, but it's really all kind of the same. And so the Sphinx class is going to augment the three brains work substantially. Like substantially.
Cool. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand in the chat, or type in. Go ahead, Deborah.
Hey, Miss Deborah.
Hi, Meg. Hi. Um, I apologize. I had an overlap with another commitment, so I just am joining. So I apologize if this question has kind of been answered, but um, I, I did a lot of work out there in Sedona, and I am still experiencing a tremendous amount of movement of energy. And I do think of it very much in terms of what you just described, where everything overlaps, whether it's you're moving energy physically or whatever, treating the physical part or the other, it's all interconnected.
Hmm.
Um, so what I've been people that I work with that have looked at my energy, and when I describe to them sort of how this integration is going for me, like today, for the first time in ages, I was really struggling with the verge of a panic attack.
Mhm.
And all the tools that I could use immediately, it would just resurface. I mean, I like woke up in the middle of something I'd been processing overnight.
Mhm.
And so my big confusion is I don't want to be moving, opening more doors and moving energy in such a way that I'm just creating more chaos in my that's having to be resolved. I don't know if chaos is the right word, but
Mhm.
um and it's I'm like uh well, obviously a simple like a salt bath will that's cleansing, purification. I could that to me seems obvious as a way to treat this without when I'm coming into situations all of this all of the symptoms that are producing right now. But like it was my solar plexus was just and then later on in the day it felt like the solar plexus in the min and I'm starting to have visions, and the vision that I had was very like I'm pretty good at not attaching to them, but I was like, I'm not sure what that means, but that is really ominous. It's just like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna, just like just and then trying to deal with everyday life. So what I'm going to is like, besides the salt bath and a few of the oils, like I used tarragon because I found over the weekend that really was very
Mhm.
soothing for me, and it's an oil that I've worked with a lot.
Mhm.
Like, how do I approach this to not be move energy in a disrupting more of all this chain that I've set in motion?
So you said you had some stuff kind of come up. Is it about something current or is it something from when you were young?
So the work that I did with the myofascial release was across the board. There was a lot of focus on a big trauma that happened, and I'd been working on it for like 6 months. A big trauma that happened as a child.
Okay.
Um, but
But what is coming up right now? Like, so you worked on all that. I mean, because that's the thing with fascial work is it does can bring up unresolved things currently, but a lot of times it brings things up from, when the trauma happened or when or you were young. So like the things that are coming up in your mind over the last few days or week, more from the past, more from right now, like what's going on?
it's very visceral. It is not like I'm thinking about something. It is, I feel the stuff in my body, and then the agitation in my body, if agitation is the right word, starts to create like I'm trying to deal with that. Or sometimes like I think, like a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I lose track of time.
Mhm.
I was having like really struggling with having the energy to do things. And it was like as if I was depressed, but I didn't feel depressed. I didn't have depressive thoughts. It was, just a lot of body awareness going on.
Okay. Yeah, and you had the fascia work done, if I remember right, the beginning of November?
So it started the last week of October and went through right before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And I was advised, don't do any more healing of any kind, any modality. And so that's why, oils have been my go-to for soothing, but I don't really know how much it overlaps into the moving more, opening up more of the Pandora's box. I've been told that it's gonna, all this to integrate and settle is gonna be probably about 2 months. Like, don't expect to really do any more work until like February, because all year I've been pushing really hard to expand my spirituality and like going at it like intensely. Like I don't know if this is disruptive to talk to you while you're thinking, but like at one point this person that it gives me a lot of advice said, if you continue on, you're going to push yourself into a Kundalini syndrome.
Okay. Um, you know, when we talk about like pain, for example, there's like physical pain, and even within physical pain, there's different kinds of physical pain. There's dull and achy, there's sharp and stabbing, there's all different kinds of pain. And then, like you said, you were addressing in a trauma or an issue back from when you were young. And so, there is emotional pain, there's mental pain, and even within those, there's variations, right? But a pain that I don't talk about very often is that uh, there's not really a reference that I know of that addresses it, but I just refer to it as social pain, and it's about like how we fit in, but especially like in and around like traumatic events or like situations where there might have been, we don't fit in, or we were struggling, or everybody was performing and somebody had to measure up. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why. But social pain can be a thing that can start to be overwhelming, and it's like it's the other side of the coin to like the trauma of the physical pain or the psychological pain that we felt. It's mm, it's not quite abandonment, it's not quite rejection, it's not quite any of those, but it's just this like people not getting it, people not accepting you, people not nurturing you, people, whatever version of it is. And part of it is like it's part of our harmonizing in the inner world and the outer world. And a lot of times we do the work on like the R stuff, but then there's still this other piece that can be a little bit debilitating. And it looks like with all the stuff, you went deep with doing the fascial work. And fascial work is very good about letting stuff go. Like it's very good about letting stuff go, letting stuff come up to the surface, letting things pass through. But it's like as it passes through, it like kind of just doesn't fit. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't fit in the now. It didn't fit back then. It didn't, like whatever it is just not fitting. Like is like the best way to describe it. And that is what it looks like is happening. Um, so the thing is you don't have to be very aggressive about that, but you want to use things that are like very nice, like nervings to help with that. Like it's almost like setting a space for you to be able to unwind it a little deeper. Not that you have to stimulate it, you already have the momentum, you already have the motion. It's just like kind of allowing it to have the space to unravel. And even in the unraveling, like sometimes it's not always like what somebody said or what somebody did. It's just being able to feel like you have the space to unwind it and be yourself. And a lot of it's about being yourself, like not being able to be yourself, I guess is what I'm saying. And so things that are helpful for this, and you can just use them. You don't even have to really do a pattern and everything, but I would work like Melissa is kind of a go-to one. Like that's what we use in alchemical practices. When you make such a shift, you have to kind of balance yourself with the environment. And Melissa is like it's like a bread and butter oil for somebody doing alchemical work. And so I would say Melissa. Roman chamomile is another one. Cape chamomile is another one. Um, Angelica. Angelica can be very good. Like, so it's like oils that are very soft, very, they're like very, very soothing. Um,
Ginger
and
lily?
ginger lily. Yeah, it wouldn't be one of my top choices, but you could probably get by with it.
Mm.
Yeah, like things that target and soothe the nerves to a little bit higher degree. Because like even sage is soothing to the nerve, but it doesn't soothe this. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's things that are soothing to the nerves. Like you probably could get away with tuberose if you had tuberose. Uh,
Mhm.
try that. But honestly, I might not do it every day, but I'd say at least 5 or 6 days a week. I take Melissa internally just for what you're talking about.
2 or 3 drops.
I yeah, you could do 2 or 3 drops. I might do a
Or
little more than that, but like,
okay.
like it depends on what work I'm doing. Because when you shift inside, it doesn't always translate immediately with the environment. And sometimes you just need a little little distance. Like I've even tried using benzoin, like when it feels like really out of control, and you're just inhaling it, but it helps. But I would say Melissa and Roman chamomile are kind of my two go-to for that. I do Angelica a lot, but for whatever reason, I tend to go to the Melissa more. And so I think you just need some of that. Like I don't know that you need to work a pattern. I think you could just inhale it, take some salt baths in you know, a couple of them, like the chamomiles or something. And then you know, a few drops internally, you know, even a few times a day. And like a little extra rest, a little bit of extra time just chilling on the couch, you know, things like that, like listening to some nice soothing music. You know, it doesn't have to be spiritual, just like something like that's chill, and let your body acclimate. You know, because it's really what you're talking about. You know, any time that you make a big shift, you know, like here you're using the word integration. And I would agree with that, but I'd even say even with integration, there's like different aspects of it. And it's not like I think you've gotten it in. Like so integration kind of implies that you're trying to get something in or you're trying to integrate it into your life. And here it's really more about like acclimating. You know, you've stepped into something that's on a different layer and you just need to be able to acclimate internally and externally with what shifted and happened so that everything's just starts to be a little more harmonious. Rose actually would probably help, you know. I don't find rose super helpful for me, but rose is helpful for a lot of different people. Like it just, you know, sometimes you'll find one that really works for you, and rose is like, eh. But if you have some rose, give rose a shot.
I
Yeah,
love spraying rose on
yeah,
me.
perfect example. Like just spraying it down, and you think about it, you spray it down, and what happens? You go, you know, it's just like that acclimation that kind of happens. You know, even the idea, if you think about like in some of the churches and stuff in older times, they would always have like a big garden and you go walk around and you know, be it full of roses or whatever. Part of um that garden is to give you acclimation time. Like just to go out and be in nature and be around plants and just be outside and get some air. And so, you know, even the Yogananda ashrams in Southern California, there are just these beautiful gardens that you just walk through and you look and you know you're just around them and it's just very soothing and um, all of that's the idea of what you're doing is you're giving yourself time just to acclimate and so I think that's what you need. It's just some acclimating time. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound like kind of resonate for you or
It does. I could see myself though as I start to work this process, and I really appreciate having something to work with rather than just let it do what it's going to do.
Mhm.
I can see myself as I work this as having questions that will come up that will fine tune the experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, and think of it like this is acclimating is not just sitting and waiting. Like a lot of times when you're in that process, there has either been movement or there's still movement happening. And what you do is you let yourself acclimate, but then you just like kind of observe and you watch and subtle things will come to the mind that you can process and you'll get insight, you'll understand the nature of things outside of yourself and the nature of things in you. You know, it's a time of observing and refining your perceptions, because anytime there's been movement there, you know how we were just talking about differentiation, there's differentiation, so it becomes easier to see parts of yourself rather than just being one big there starts to be this little thing and then that little thing and then this little thing and then this little tiny thing and then this bigger thing and then that thing that I don't want to look at. And you know, you start to see all these little pieces, and you know, not any one piece is all you. They're just pieces of you. But when there starts to be more and more movement, you can see these different pieces, and it's like you can engage some of them when you want to and temper them when you need to, where before they're just running amok. You know what I mean? Like they just come up and they're just like a monster under your bed sometimes, or that friend that you haven't heard from for like 5 years. Like, when are they going to call? When are they going to come around? And when you start to see the differentiation, it's like you are able to draw it up when you need to, and you're able to temper it and keep it in place when you need to. Like it becomes easier to interact with those pieces of yourself, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm actually starting to get a glimmer of that already.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's exciting.
yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, people have to work very hard to get there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. It can be a bit uncomfortable, but even
A
after a
little,
while, the uncomfortable becomes familiar. You know what I mean? It's still uncomfortable, but you're like, I could do this. Like I've done this a bunch of times. You know, still doesn't make it where you're like, yeah, I really like this now. It's like, no, this is still kind of weird, but I get it. You know, I'm just in my little phase right now.
yeah.
Yeah. But
And
like even us like talking about it, you notice like you seem like you feel a little calmer.
yes.
Yeah. It's seeing those things for what it is. The agitation comes from I don't know what's going on, or I gotta put the fire out, or I gotta pump the brakes. And now it's just like watching ocean waves. Like, you know, it still can be a little uncomfortable, but it's even with that, there's a kind of order that's there, that it's an order that's beyond your physical body or your life, but there's still an order that's there that is very, very soothing if you watch it. Very, very
Hmm.
soothing. Just like watching the ocean waves. It
Okay.
feels very, very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because as you know, one aspect of me calms down, then it opens the my awareness up to another part. It's almost
Yeah.
like when you breathing, the inhalation, and like,
Hmm.
oh, I didn't know that hurt.
Yeah.
And but it's not hurt in such a way. It's just like, I guess, how you described seeing the different parts.
It can be a hurt. Like I like when you said that, I knew exactly what you were talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but the weird thing is like you can see like, oh wow, I didn't even realize that I was hurt in these particular ways, or this, you know, whatever it is. Um, it doesn't quite have the punch or the impact, or it doesn't quite have the value that it would have 3 months ago. You know what I mean? Like you're in a different place now, so you go, yeah, that really hurt, but eh, put it on the tab. You know, it starts to be mm,
It's
the
not of importance anymore. It's
yeah,
not,
like there starts to be less this is good, this is bad. It's just, it's a thing.
Yeah.
You know, that it was good or bad. It was actually both. There were some good things, there were some bad things. You know,
The piece though that is challenging is there's a certain part of the physical piece that's still processing through my body. So like as I'm relaxed right now, talking to you, like my voice and that kind of thing is relaxed. I can feel like my legs are tremoring, you know, uh, and it's, you know, I have a tremor, so I'm used to a tremor,
Mhm.
but this is um like excessive, and that'll stop, and then something else will pop up.
Yeah, that's kind of normal too. Like anytime there's movement, part of like when you are still, you'll perceive like potential change, and there's part of your physiology that really doesn't care for that. And so to be able just to sit and watch it and not feel the need to like try to make that go away is the goal. But part of that is tied to this idea of like social pain. Part of
Okay.
the change is like, how will I fit in? Will it be embarrassing? Will this happen? Will that happen? People won't like me anymore. People will treat me different, you know, because like a very good example is, you know, say you're in some industry and you start doing really well and you really become like the goat in the situation. Like you're like the one that's really stepped up their game. So the difficulty is that, you know, you stepped up your game, you're doing more, you're able to apply yourself more. In a way, you're sacrificing more. You're learning, you're setting examples, you know, whatever it is. Um, you know, all of that can be happening, and you would think like, oh, people will really acknowledge that and give me a pat on the back, or you know, this or that. And people grind on you a little bit more and treat you a little crappy, like a little crappier than they did before. And you know, the mind doesn't quite understand it because you're like, I'm doing so much better, I'm at the top of my game, I'm being successful, I'm being whatever. And it makes you fit in a little bit less. And so there's almost this point where you go, Is this just like mental illness of like I'm trying to get better, and then at the same time it's what makes me more miserable? Like you know, it's not. But you know that you have those moments of like I'm trying to be better, and it makes me fit in less and less. And you know, that is the thing. Healing is not attractive. It's not. People are way more drawn to dysfunction than to healing. Way more. And, you know, trying to do good or trying to be better, trying to evolve, trying to be more spiritual. You know, we have our circles, you know, where that gets more accepted and everything, but the general public, not so much. I would say almost the opposite. And you know, this goes back to this idea of that social pain where, you know, the more that you heal, the more that you shift, the more that you connect internally, the more you stand out a little bit more, and the more you don't fit in, and the more people are going to be a little weird and a little pissy with you and a little judgy with you and whatever. You're usually in a better place to handle it, but it's there. You know, it's totally there. And you know, if you've ever been around like some very developed spiritual teacher or whatever, they're surrounded by people, but you can see the loneliness on their face. You can see it. It's not always there, but like when they relax, you can see it. And it's just, you know, there's a price to pay to ignore all this stuff and live a life of being just enslaved by your lower nature. And there's a price to pay for stepping away from all that and becoming a little bit more of who you are. Either way, there's a price. But, you know, at some point it feels better to cultivate the goodness than just to let the badness enslave you. But not everybody's there. You know, if you look at what goes on in the general public, not everybody's there by a large scale.
It feels more authentic to
Yeah.
search for being
Yeah. Yeah.
higher in spirituality than
I would agree. And I would say whatever happens in this life is a temporary situation. You know, the thing that goes on for reincarnations, that you get all caught up in things going on right now. You know, long term's not always the best thing for you. To stick into the things that you know to be doing, that's the thing to do. But it's a hard sell in a day like these days. You know, not everybody is there. So, you know, the goal is just to not get sucked into things too much and keep doing your practice. And if anything, with everything going on in the world, it becomes easier to see who you really are if you look. Much easier than it was 100 years ago. Much easier. But also a little bit crazier in the things going on in the world, you know?
Yeah,
So,
lots of contrast.
so I would say nice, soft, comfy pajamas and soft socks and drink some Melissa and chamomile tea and yeah, get a little extra rest. Maybe go outside, look at the stars a little bit more this next week or two. It will regulate.
Thank you.
Don't feel you need to make anything happen. It's happening. I would actually say spend time observing the thoughts and the things that pop up in your nead and even patterns that you notice in life. Not even trying to fix anything. You're just watching all the stuff happen. And
Well,
just, you know, make mental notes or write some things down, but you know, it's like having a travel journal, like your inner travel journal. You know, you make a shift like this, like, oh, these are the things that happened on my travels. You know, because
Yeah.
you're having movement, you're stepping out of something of where you're at. So, you know, pay attention to some of the things, because the things that jump out at you are usually new or have been in such repetition that you weren't aware of them until the movement. And so, you know, pay attention. It's more about observing right now than trying to make something happen or not happen or fix something or release something. Just observing and notes and yeah.
Thank you. It'll be easier to be in the midst of when it feels intense
Mm-hmm.
with this kind of approach. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then let us know if you need help or something.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're so welcome.
And then we have another question in chat, and then
We'll jump into our practice.
could you speak about the glass ceiling, 3 brains work, and or transmutation? I think they're bringing this up from when you were talking about the Sphinx class.
Oh, glass ceiling is just, you know, it's kind of like how we're talking about right now. With Deborah is like, you know, you develop something, you go, this is new, this is amazing, this is so much insight, and then after a couple of months you're like, okay, I've been doing this for a while, but now what? Like you've expanded in certain areas to a certain extent, but now there's still places where things are being held back or lack movement or lack the momentum to keep things going in the direction you're doing. And so with intuition, with the three brains, with innovation, with just that inner movement, at some point you come up against the stumbling blocks of different aspects of the will. And, you know, a lot of times when you say those things like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, or like Deborah, I think, said 1 step forward, 8 steps back, you know, any version of that, the steps back are usually the will. You know, it's you have the momentum and then you feel like the pushback, you know, the how flexible and how fluid the will can be, how adaptive and adjustable the will can be, can minimize the steps back. Like you take 3 steps forward, and instead of going 2 steps back, you go, okay, 3 steps forward. Now I'm going to be here for a moment and let everything acclimate. And then I'm going to take 2 more steps forward. And then I'm going to let everything acclimate versus having to go backwards, right? The will is the thing that pushes you backwards, if that makes sense. And so it's a harder thing to work on, but there is very gentle ways to address it so that everything is very soothing, everything is very fluid, and it keeps everything gentle, very, very gentle.
They added another part that was, is it the ability to carry a higher vibration / frequency?
Yeah, I would say the ability to experience higher things, but also to bring light to lower things. You know, it's think of it like this: is consciousness and awareness is like going up and down a ladder at some point. And at first, you're only really working a step or two, but at some point, uh, you start going more and more up and down the ladder. And when you go down, you're taking the light from up above and you're taking it down to areas that really cause our suffering. And you bring light to it, you shift it, you dissipate it, you make it go away. You know. And so it's more about like that. It's not a place, it's a movement. Like it's about like being able to shift and move to a much greater degree. You know, when we think of spiritual practice from the logical mind, we think of it as, if I could just get to the place, like if I could get to that oasis, if I could get to that building, if I could get to that spot where it's all peaceful. That is a step in the process, but it's not the result. It's the movement from step to step to step to step. That's what you're really looking at, and the movement is the key. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Someone said bidirectional dynamism.
Oh yeah, I like that.
That's for sharing. Great questions
Yeah,
tonight,
that's
guys.
great.
Hopefully I didn't miss any of your other questions here in the chat. Oh, what would you recommend for helping to heal ancestral trauma or karma? I think they meant to say karma.
Yeah, I would say doing the 3 brain work is like by far the best bet. Like that stuff is really super ingrained into a lot of psyche and even your physiology to a certain extent. And the way that you do it, like you're literally moving out of it, you have to engage the movement. And three brain work is all about engaging movement. And so, and refining the movement. And so it's not a thing that you're releasing, or it's basically being able to change that frequency to like walk out of it or to shift out of it, or like here Deborah's talking about like having a big shift. You shift and then you acclimate, and then you shift, you acclimate, and for healing things like that, it's all about being able to generate movement, you know. Yeah.
They're asking 3 brain movement. Is that in a module? Like maybe a star module?
It's taught in some of the things with Astara. It's in a couple of the modules, but the modules are developing your abilities with three brain. I mean, I just openly teach the three brains in even the Wednesday night classes and streams that are free. The modules are about refining your abilities with three brains that are available. And then we do the same thing with here. We've had a few classes, the vagus nerve, the medulla and vagus nerve, the body wisdom, the body mapping class, and even the transformational astrology was about enhancing the three brain components. And so the Sphinx class that's coming up in the middle of January is helpful. Even the class we're doing on Sunday, that's a free class, that also is addressing three brains and the movement. It's not necessarily teaching a technique, it's about refining your ability to shift and move, do it more fluid, and not get so beat up and bumped up as you do it. Yeah.
And Robert's been posting some of those classes, and I'm posting like a link to like go to YouTube videos where we've edited some of the
Okay.
practice
Yeah.
things with the
So
three
like we're
brains.
trying to make it so that you can go and be able to practice on YouTube with some of the things we present. And
Yeah, and then we have, yeah. And just one quick last question, it looks like, sorry, let me get Greg's video back up here. And it is, can I use holy water from Birmingham to Oh, from probably the Milong, I'm guessing, but they can clarify. Can I use the holy water from Birmingham in a body tonic?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. And I think we have some time. Want to do a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
practice?
I do.
Great.
Wait just a second here. I'm not getting all the iPads are not syncing. Okay, let's do this. Let's pull out, if you have it, ironbark eucalyptus, rue, or etheric quartz. If you don't, we'll give you some options, but let's shoot for those three first.
St. John's wort.
Yeah, St. John's wort could work. You don't have that. Hyssop would be in the vein.
All right, well, let's leave it at that
Yeah,
and let's see.
Okay, so one of the things that we did on the lymphatic ache class, which was to the psoas, was to work on connections, but not with people, but to past events, right? Past events and our situations. And the reason being that sometimes these situations or past events generate anxiety or stress or fear or cause us to feel chaotic or like make the physiology a little unstable, right? And so it can overactivate men, it can agitate some of your physiology. And so we're just going to unwind this a bit. So first, let's just prime the pipes or the pump or whatever however you want to say it. So whichever oil that you chose, just take some long, slow, deep breaths and just not even really thinking of something. You're just cleaning out what's there. And then just pause and be still. And then just be still. Okay, now, think of a situation that's going on in your world right now, something that's active. Doesn't have to be bad. It can be good. It could be, even when something's good, it's good with a little bit of bad or a little bit of stress or a little bit. And even when something stressful is happening that's bad, it's like there's still some little gold pieces in there, right? And so you're not really judging it as good or bad. It's just a thing. It's just a thing that you're doing. So whatever it is, just think of something that's an active thing that you're doing and keep thinking of it as you inhale the oil. The good question I hadn't thought about. But and then just be still. Notice how you feel. And again, that situation, and take some nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Mhm. And then pause and be still. Like sometimes. Just be still. Yeah. Past event. Something a while back, something that was impactful. Could be good, could be bad. Doesn't really matter. Just something that was impactful. Could be graduation, could be a car accident, could be birth of a child, a wedding. Could be, quitting your job, could be whatever it is. Something impactful. And then just be still. And then same past event. Long, slow, deep breaths. Just be still. Notice how you feel. Your body, your emotions, your mind. How does that feel? So, Samantha, keep in mind we did this on Saturday, in the class, and Samantha is saying like she feels way more relaxed, and she goes, I didn't feel wound up, but now it's like it goes down a notch or a level. And so this isn't a one-time thing. This is something that like you just need to tune this up from time to time. We don't really notice that these things are happening with the environment or our past until they're gone. And then you're like, whoa, where'd all that tension go? It wasn't that you're wound up about something, or sometimes it's not even your tension. It's other people, other things that need to perform, whatever it is. And just taking that out just allows your body to shift more. So remember tomorrow night, the study group is open to everybody. It's for the lymphatic 8, which is the psoas class, which this is actually part of. So we'll probably do a little bit more of this tomorrow night, along with some other things. But join us if you can. It's open to everybody. It was a free class. And, we have the streams for Astara prior. And yeah, and then we have free classes on the weekend. Uncle Bob and the esoteric meaning of red and green, which is, more of an esoteric thing. That's both are free. So join us if you can. So hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to go to the Astara prayer petition blessing. Join us if you can. And if not, hope to see you sometime soon. Take care.